how many other instances like this are there? How often is this overlooked in our county? How often is this happening and nobody's doing anything?
A York County man says it took too long for someone to rescue dogs from his neighbor's property. The man says the animals had been abused and neglected, and he reported it to several agencies, and help finally arrived when FOX43 stepped in. FOX43's Rachel Yankunis reveals how a collapse in communication almost cost 2 dogs their lives.
When you suspect animal cruelty, your first call shouldn't always be to police. Neighbors in Newberry Township say they learned that the hard way. FOX43 reveals how resources are stretched thin when it comes to animal cruelty investigations in one of the biggest counties in central PA.
I really feared that the black dog was dying. It's so thin you could see her ribs.
And neighbors of Faith Doran noticed it too. Across the street, Newberry Township couple Dave and Kat contacted FOX43 with these disturbing photos of 2 pit bulls.
I mean, it was horrendous. There was a pregnant mama chained up to the wheel of a car, literally lodged underneath the trailer, withered away to nothing, scars all over the top of her head, and I'm thinking, this is horrible. And the dog was pulling, and he like kicked the dog. And I was like, man, that dude just kicked that dog. I mean, that's messed up.
The he Dave is referring to is a former co-worker of Doran's. He owns the pit bulls, and Doran tells FOX43 Reveals he had been staying on her property until recently.
One day, the black dog, Widow, got out. He just punched into her.
What did you think when you saw him physically abuse them?
I was like, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to get scared. I didn't want to get scared because when you have a conversation with the gentleman, he gets very defensive, very defensive.
Out of fear, she said nothing, and he kept his dogs locked up in her garage for hours each day.
I'll show you how they spent the last weeks here. Instead of them getting out again, he blocked the door like this. It would be tighter. It would be tighter. And they couldn't get out. 17 and a half hours a day. And I'm not exaggerating.
And how long was this going on for?
I finally got tired of it after a month.
This is where a collapse in communication almost cost these dogs their lives. Neighbors say they called 911 several times, but it got nowhere.
Nobody's answering me, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? So I'm calling more people, I'm calling everybody. And then that night I said, you know what, I'm calling the news, man. Maybe they can help me.
FOX43 reveals these messages never made it to the man in charge of investigating cases of animal cruelty for York County, the SPCA's Humane Society police officer, Otto Cruz. Officer Cruz had been to the home in the past, but the SPCA says these conditions are technically legal under Pennsylvania law.
If the animal has adequate food, water, and shelter, he has no legal grounds to obtain a search warrant.
If the owner fails to get them adequate vet care, though, isn't that considered neglect?
If the situation is bad that the animal needs vet care, yes. But the lady was treating the scratches and the wounds. She's not the owner of the dog, so she was trying her best until the owner came back. The owner was out of town.
The owner left his dogs on Doran's property. He may have even left the state. So Doran surrendered the dogs to Speranza Animal Rescue in Cumberland County.
Oh, it's okay, Mama. We'll get you taken care of, I promise.
The female was emaciated and gave birth to 1 puppy. The male had an infection from an old wound. Newberry Township Police tell FOX43 Reveals they aren't investigating. Neither is the SPCA. What happens next?
The problem here is who I charge. She had the burden of care. He's the owner. She was trying. He was trying. Let's say I give him a fine. What's the point, really? He don't have no money.
Deterrence?
But future? He's not even gonna be in Pennsylvania anymore.
End of story? Not quite. FOX43 reveals there are close to 1,000 animal cruelty reports like this in York County every year. Officer Cruz is the only Humane Society police officer for the county, meaning he's responsible for investigating every call by himself. How do you ensure that no case falls through the cracks or is shortchanged in their investigation because you have so many other cases that you're working on?
I prioritize cases. I try to go to every single case, every single time. It might take me a week. It might take me, it is what it is. I'm only one.
Through Otto's great relationships with police and with animal control officers in the county, that's how he is able to manage.
But he's only one person, and the law has many gray areas.
Josie.
A big concern for animal lovers like Dave and Kat, who say the dogs should have been rescued much sooner.
They don't have a voice. They have no voice. They can't reach out for help,
They
you
have
know?
eyes though too, and in those eyes,
It's
you can
sad.
see it.
It's sad to watch.
The dogs are still in the care of Speranza Animal Rescue. Officer Cruz now says he will be following up on this case. The York County SPCA says the best way to report animal abuse or neglect is by submitting a form online. You can find a link to that on FOX43.com. There, we also break down when to call your county's Humane Society police officer, when to call the dog warden, and when to contact police. Fox 43 reveals issues that affect you and your family to keep you informed. Do you have a story you want us to investigate? Send me an email at fox43reveals@fox43.com.